God rulers. In addition to the supreme heavenly gods and all the bright patron gods, significant attention among Orthodox Old Believers Inglings is given to the veneration of ancient god rulers. These bright gods govern various types of elements, different desires, as well as the steady flow of life and many other events that constantly occur on Midgard Earth in the lives of the great race clans and in the lives of the descendants of the heavenly kin. There are many god rulers, so we will only mention those that a person inevitably encounters sooner or later. Some god rulers. Varuna, god of the starry skies movement, overseeing sacred paths connecting the between worlds gates in pure Svarog's halls. Varuna governs human destiny's roads, determining spiritual development strength and life purpose fulfillment. The raven, an oracle bird, is Varuna's faithful companion. Only God Varuna can determine the power of spiritual development and the complete fulfillment of a person's life purpose. The raven is an oracle bird, a faithful companion of the god ruler Varuna. He accompanies the souls of the deceased to the gates of Iri in the great pure Svarog and informs the souls of the Navs about the high goals they have achieved in their spiritual and emotional development and in fulfilling their life's purpose on Midgard Earth. If the god Varuna decides that a person needs the opportunity to complete an unfinished deed that they couldn't finish due to a sudden death, then he sends his assistant, the raven, to the soul of the deceased person. The raven, the keeper of the living and dead waters, gives the soul of the deceased the chance to return to their own body so that the person, upon returning to the world of Yavi, can complete their unfinished business. People say they returned from the other side. Raven's return changes them, and they complete tasks. Varuna asks Karna to find a body for the soul. Strangely enough, after the return of the god ruler Raven to a person, they change their behavior, no longer waste their life, and complete the tasks they hadn't finished. If a person cannot be returned to their own body due to its complete destruction, then the heavenly god Varuna asks the goddess Karna to find a suitable body for that soul of the Navi. Number god, the god who governs the flow of celestial time and the Slavo-Aryan calendar. The number god by its very nature is both the supreme god and the god ruler. In his left hand he holds a sword pointed downwards, symbolizing the protection and preservation of the universal laws throughout celestial time. And in the right hand of the number god there is a shield on which is depicted his runic circle of time. According to this circle of time, the number god was used to count the years in all Slavic and Aryan lands of Great Rossinia until the forced Christianization across Vina Europe. In the Russian principalities, the circle of the number god was used until the new calendar was introduced in 7208, corresponding to 1700 AD. Now, only clergy of the ancient Russian Inglistic Church and clans of the great race who follow the old faith use this system. In the creation of the world, the year 1700 is considered the year of our era. Currently, the system of the circle of the number god is used only by the clergy priests of the ancient Russian Inglistic Church, of the Orthodox Old Believers Inglings, and the clans of the great race who adhere to the old faith, the priests of the number god, knew in ancient times and still know today the secrets of a special, ancient system for counting days, weeks, months, and years. They created various special tables to determine not only the sunrise and sunset of the sun and moon and eclipses, but also the movements of stars and lands. With the help of these special tables, they could also predict the future fate of a newborn based on the time of their birth, foretelling certain events that were destined to happen. Moreover, the priests know when changes can occur in the life of any clan, society or state, for everything is subject to the heavens, and any change is predetermined from above. Chernobog, the god who governs the understanding of the material world and cold reason, simple yet ironclad logic, and boundless egoism. He observes how the ancient knowledge of the world of the Orlegs spreads across other worlds and realities. Chernobog fled from his world to the dark worlds because he violated the heavenly laws established by the supreme god Svarog. He treacherously tore the seal from the secret ancient knowledge of his world, which was guarded by Belobog, and the ancient knowledge of the world of the Orlegs echoed throughout all the lower worlds, reaching even the darkest depths of the hellish realm. He did this in order to obtain the ancient knowledge of the highest worlds for himself, according to the law of universal correspondence. And the ancient knowledge of the world of the Orlegs echoed throughout all the lower worlds, reaching even the darkest depths of the hellish realm. He did this in order to obtain for himself the ancient knowledge of the highest worlds, according to the law of universal correspondence. To justify himself and his actions before the heavenly god Svarog, Chernobog gathers his supporters from all lands in the worlds of Navi and Yavi. He tries to instill in his followers greed, permissiveness, cold reason, iron logic, and boundless egoism. In our world, on Midgard Earth, Chernobog first gives a person the opportunity to touch the tiniest particles of the ancient knowledge of his world. He tries to instill in his followers greed, permissiveness, cold reason, iron logic, and boundless egoism. Chernobog in our world, on Midgard Earth, first gives the person the opportunity to touch the tiniest particles of the ancient knowledge of his world, and observes how a person will behave in such a situation. If a person who has received knowledge from the higher world begins to elevate themselves above others and violates human and heavenly laws, then Chernobog starts to fulfill all their unchanging desires. God Vatan is the heavenly warrior god who governs all the military forces of the clans of the great race. The warrior god Vatan always leads the military forces to great and glorious victories during bloody battles and various fights against fierce enemies. Especially, god Vatan helps when this enemy attacks the lands and fields of the Slavic and Aryan clans, when they destroy homes and shrines, ravage granaries and estates, steal livestock, and take the people of the great race into captivity. Vatan is the god who governs the just liberating war. After the victory over the enemy, abundant gifts were brought to him, mostly from battle trophies. In his honor, lavish feasts were held, and beautiful songs and epic tales were composed. Goddess of Mrtsana Zarya Zarenica. The dawn and harvest goddess, revered for aiding crop ripening, was honored by rural people. She resided on the second earth from the sun, called the land of Dawn Mrtsana. This goddess was especially revered by the rural inhabitants, as she helps in the swift ripening of abundant grains and fruits. Therefore, public worship services were held in her honor, and people prayed to her for a good harvest. In ancient times it was believed that this benevolent heavenly goddess who governs had her beautiful shining halls on the second earth from Yarila the sun, which is why she was called the land of Dawn Mrtsana in all the clans of the great race. Note: on the second earth from Yarila the sun, in the modern astronomical system, this is the planet Venus. Mrtsana is also the goddess who protects young love in early youth. Young girls mainly turn to the Dawn Mrtsana when they fall in love with young men during gatherings and celebrations. At the shrine of the goddess Mrtsana, girls brought various gifts, beaded and amber jewelry, embroidered towels, and beautiful bouquets of bright field and forest flowers to ask the priestesses of the goddess Mrtsana about the suitor that the heavenly gods would grant them. Guardian Gods. In addition to the high heavenly gods, the bright patron gods, and the ancient governing gods, Orthodox old believers, known as Yngling, place great importance on the veneration of the heavenly guardian gods. For all heavenly guardian gods protect the old believers, the Yngling, from all the ancient clans of the great race and the descendants of the heavenly lineage, as well as the good created by the old believers for their descendants. The guardian gods protect the fertile fields of the forest and the lands of the clans of the great race, as well as all the borders of the Slavic Aryan state from the raids of various enemies. Godshur is a guardian deity who oversees the borders, ensuring the separation of clans and their lands. Boundary stones or idols of Godshur were placed along the border. The border was sacred and inviolable. No one dared to cross or move the stones or idols, fearing the wrath of the vigilant god. At certain distances along the border, at regular intervals, boundary stones were placed, or wooden idols depicting the god Shur were dug into the ground. Since ancient times, the border has been considered inviolable, no one could cross it at will, and no one dared to move or remove the boundary stone or idol for fear of angering the all-seeing, vigilant guardian God. In addition, for God sure to protect a person and all their possessions, as well as any finds or treasures from dark, unclean forces and wicked robbers, it was only necessary to say, "Sure is mine." God sure protects secret thoughts from demons. When danger arises, wise people advise remembering God sure and saying, "Sure me, sure protect me." God Snik guards the sacred fire, revered by old believers, the Yngling. So, when any danger arises, the old and wise people advise to frequently remember God sure, and to call upon Him by saying "Sure me," which means to ask the great guardian God, "Sure, protect me." God Snik is the guardian of the eternal fire, revered by old believers. He is present in daily life and spiritual rituals, enabling nature to thrive and people to live joyfully. It exists everywhere, in the everyday worldly life of clans and lakoras, in various spiritual rituals and ceremonies of the priests, clergy of the old faith. God Snik allows all forest and garden plants to grow, all flowers in the fields and forests to bloom, and all people of the great race to live in happiness, love, and joy. The priests and ministers of Snik have always been inspired and motivated by God. They helped people by freeing them from ailments and hardships, transferring the spiritual power of the sacred fire of Snik into the souls of the people. The priests and ministers of Snik have always been inspired and motivated by God. They helped people by freeing them from ailments and hardships, transferring the spiritual power of the sacred fire of Snik into the souls of the people. The fiery god Snik inspired Slavic and Aryan warriors to victory, awakening in them strength, courage, and a warrior's fervor. People turned to God Snik for healing various ailments and diseases, hoping to find relief. God, Spek, is the guardian god of every honest person during their creative and constructive endeavors for the benefit of their descendants, their ancient clans, and their homeland. He watches over and supports human efforts, contributing to their success and overall development. Therefore, among Orthodox old believers, known as Yngling, there is a belief that the guardian god Spek helps all good, loving, and kind-hearted people, guarding and assisting human endeavors, contributing to their success and overall development. Therefore, among the Orthodox old believers, known as Yngling, there is a belief that the guardian god Spek helps all good, loving, and kind-hearted people. Slavs and Aryans always brought rich gifts and offerings to Spek. Mainly, these were the bountiful fruits of the fields, forests, and creative labor. In honor of the god Spek, the Orthodox old believers, known as Yngling, held lavish feasts, joyful games, and various entertainments. Belobog, a god of knowledge, blesses hard-working Slavic and Aryan clans with joy and guides them towards creative glory. He is a generous giver of all blessings, happiness, and joy to all hard-working people from the ancient Slavic and Aryan clans. Belobog guided our wise ancestors towards creative work. To the good creators, Belobog shared ancient knowledge. To the good creators walking the golden path of spiritual development, the wise Belobog granted the ancient knowledge of the higher worlds, and they created such beautiful creations that no one could repeat them throughout the existence of life on Midgard Earth. Belobog protected knowledge, gathering heavenly hosts against Chernobog and his dark army, including his followers from worlds of darkness. Thanks to Belobog, people creators are born, filling life with beauty, love, goodness, and harmony. God Parevit, the heavenly guardian, protects with his 7 brothers and allies. God Yarovit, God Parenut, the lands in the constellation of Makosh, and all lands and moons in Erila the sun. Thanks to Belobog, in the lands of the manifest world, people creators are born, filling life with beauty, love, goodness, and harmony, without which human life would be grey and uncomfortable. God Parevit, the heavenly guardian god, protects together with his 7 heavenly brothers and allies, God Yarovit, God Parenut, and other gods, the lands in the constellation of Makosh, as well as all the lands and moons in the system of Erila the sun. In addition, Paririd is the guardian god of all hard-working Slavic farmers, hunters, gatherers of forest fruits and berries. He protects the fruits of their creative labor from greedy kachis and other enemies. All the aforementioned heavenly gods, whether they are the higher gods, guardian gods, governing gods, or protective gods, are revered in the ancient Russian Church. But that doesn't mean we've listed all the heavenly gods that belong to the celestial circles. In many villages and among many clans, they honor their ancestral gods. The ancient Russian Church recognizes all ancestral gods alongside those mentioned above. Glory to all our heavenly gods. The great three heads of the worlds. The great heavenly gods, in the common Slavic and Aryan tradition, are united in sacred triune unions, which we call the great Triglavs. Each great Triglav performs a specific deed in its higher world, and also influences all intelligent forms of life on the lands in various inhabited worlds and realities. There are divine great Triglavs that protect the universal worlds. There are worlds of Navi, worlds of Yavi, worlds of Slavi, and the world of Pravi, as well as the great three heads of time that oversee specific periods: autumn, winter, and spring. There are great gods united in 9 heads who oversee the summer, the year, and each day of the week. The great Triglav of the world of Pravi, the one creator Ramha, the ancestral god rod, who grants the people of the great race the powers of creation, Ramha, the powers of reproduction, ancestral god rod, and the place of residence, Vishay. The great Triglav of Miroslavi, god Ingl, god Troyan, and god Volk, who grant the people of the great race spiritual knowledge and self-development, god Ingl, creativity and inventiveness, god Troyan, courage and self-sacrifice in honor of their kin, god Volk. The great Triglav of the world of Yav, god Svarog, god Perun, and god Svintovid, who give people of the great race conscience and prudence, god Svarog, will and freedom, god Perun, soulfulness and mutual assistance, god Svintovid. The great Triglav of the world of Navi, god Veles, god Tarch, rain god, god Sviatovid, who gives people of the great race diligence and zeal, god Veles, ancient wisdom and kindness, Rainbog Tark Perunovich, spirituality and love, god Sviatovid. The great Triglav, the patron of autumn, goddess Jiva, god Ramhat, goddess Rojana, who gives the great race compassion, goddess Jiva, prosperity and abundance, god Ramhat. Healthy offspring, goddess Rojana. The great Triglav, the patron of winter. Healthy offspring, goddess Rosana. The great Triglav, the patron of winter. The supreme god Rod, god Velis, goddess Morena, who give the great race the prosperity of Rod, god Rod, abundant hunting and full granaries, god Veles, harmonious rest and peace, goddess Morena. The great Triglav, the patron of spring, the heavenly god Krishin, goddess Lada, god Perun, abundant hunting and full granaries, god Veles, harmonious rest and peace, goddess Morena. The great Triglav, the patron of spring, the heavenly god Krishin, the mother goddess Lada, and god Perun, who give the great race spiritual rituals and creative inspiration, god Krishin, mutual love and marital respect, mother goddess Lada, determination and brotherly support, god Perun, the great nine-headed. The heavenly gods who patronize and govern the days of the ancient Slavo-Aryan week. The great nine-headed, the heavenly gods who patronize and govern the days of the ancient Slavo-Aryan week. God Horse governs Monday. God Ari governs Tuesday. The supreme god Perun is the judge. God Varuna governs Thursday. God Indra governs Friday. The great Stribog with the 6. The supreme god Svarog governs Saturday. Goddess Zarya Mirtsana of the 8 and god Yarila of the week.